Welcome to Top Advisor Marketing, where you will learn how to become a prolific online influencer, attract more ideal clients, and grow your practice. Brought to you by Top Advisor Podcasting, a done-for-you podcasting solution built just for trusted advisors. And now, your co-hosts of Top Advisor Marketing, Kirk Lowe and Matt Halloran.
Hello and welcome to episode number 34, Death by Referrals, Part 2, The Demise of Referrals. So we're going to continue to dive into this Death by Referrals paper that Kirk wrote not too long ago and that you can download for free on our website, topadvisormarketing.com. So Kirk, all right, let's do a little bit of a recap of what episode 1 was, if you don't mind, and then let's jump right into episode 2.
Yeah, in episode 1, we talked about what's changed with financial marketing, what hasn't changed. And so we went through about 10 or so points on, 5 on each of those, and really came to the realization that referrals are absolutely critical. Business models, building trust, how we communicate, being a pro, evolving business models, things like that. So You got to go back and listen to that one. The best to listen to that. I mean, to be honest, this is a standalone to a degree. Mm-hmm. But if you want to get a little more background, I'd strongly suggest going back and listen to that one.
All right. So you said that
this one's going to be better.
Awesome. Well, you said that there are 5 ways that you're killing your practice by referral. So let's talk about those 5 ways. Jumping
right in here. Yep. I like it. Demise number 1, too many referrals. It's too many. There's advisors saying, wow, what a great problem to have. I'm going to give you 2 examples of real people. So the first one, advisor 1, we'll call them 350 clients, gets about 10 referrals per month. You're thinking to yourself, oh my goodness, I would dream of that. Mm-hmm. 9 are not qualified, 1 is qualified. Mm. So the way this advisor set up their business is that they have a junior. They hand off to the junior, the 9. Mm-hmm. They manage the junior. They're not very profitable. The advisor loses themselves in managing the junior and everything that's going on there, because the junior is trying to set up a practice, so they're a mentor more than they are an advisor now. No time to add value to their practice. I want you to remember that, because we're going to talk about that a little bit later. No time to add value to the practice, because you're managing, you're focused on non-ideals more often than not. So the one ideal that does come through is a hit and miss, because you think about it, you got to have enough ideals coming through to make the closes, and right?
Sure.
Just because they're qualified, I said qualified here, 1 qualified doesn't necessarily mean they're ideal. It just means that maybe they meet the asset range or the age range or the income, something like that. Okay. Mm-hmm. So that's advisor 1. That is not a good situation, even though it appears like it is. The second instance of getting too many referrals, this one is going to blow your mind. So we're talking over 1,000 clients. This advisor 2 I'm talking about now. So advisor 2, over 1,000 clients, gets 100 plus leads per month.
Oh, jeez.
Some qualified, some not. Let's just call it a 50-50. Mm-hmm. So right there, that's tough, right? Qualifying 50 people plus
per month. Yeah. Wow.
And then chasing the other 50 for meetings. Mm-hmm. High cost of marketing per lead. They spend $800 plus K a year earning a revenue of about 1.3 to 1.5 in that range.
Okay, wait a second here. So you're saying that they're spending $800,000 a year on marketing, and they're grossing 1.3?
No, they're new revenue.
Okay. That's still insanely expensive. Yeah, but wow. I mean, you're looking at thousands of dollars. Wow, that's crazy. Okay, wow.
Here's the biggest rub with that. That is an incredible burden. That's like a manufacturing line, and there's a lot of pressure, and it's very hard to sustain. If you have a month where you didn't get as many leads, just think of the pressure there.
Yeah.
Right? $80,000, whatever, $70,000 spend, and
you get nothing.
You only got 20 leads this month. What happened? What went wrong?
Yep.
Or if things start to change, anyway, that is through a radio program. So, I mean, it's not always fun, and it's tireless work, and there's a fair amount of financial risk. But, you could say 5-10 years down the road, that business it'll pay off. But I know a lot of advisors who would not be prepared to live that kind of life and run that kind of business. Personally, I'm got my hand raised up really high there.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff doesn't really interest me.
Well, it's a high volume shop, which means it's most likely very transactional business too. So you eat what you kill, and then you're not getting paid again later. That's one of the more difficult things with a model like that. I've worked with models like that before from a coaching perspective, and really it is just a transaction. And then it's difficult to go back to them when you're trying to build a fee-based relationship with these thousands of clients, or at least trying to bubble the right ones up to the top, because you never really got to know them. So that's demise number one, which is too many referrals, which again, most of you would say, well, hell, I will deal with that at a moment's notice. But I think Kirk just kind of opened your eyes on what exactly that demise number one really does to your practice. And demise number two is what?
Too few referrals.
Okay. So this is the one that we deal with all the time.
Yeah, I think we probably deal with this one more than 50% of the time, to be fair.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of advisors are starving for new business, specifically referrals. And I think the real problem here is that this creates what I'll call a desperation. And when you're running your business with desperation anywhere near you, it influences decision-making. And I think this is a major problem for a lot of advisors in the industry, is that they're making decisions based on for the wrong reasons. And I think this, we talk a lot about behavioral finance, and it's kind of the same idea here, that irrational decision, biased decisions. And when you're making decisions based on this desperation influence, or the influence of desperation, you don't make good decisions. You're much more focused on short term. You're focused on cost. Maybe you're focused on quick numbers, quick returns, and not long-term return. I think there's all kinds of problems with that. And you change frequently, so you can't build momentum.
Sure.
So I'm going to give you guys a couple of really quick tips here. And you can go back and listen to other podcasts we've done to get answers for here. But you have to build a foundation. The right thing to do is to build a foundation if you want to be better at referrals. You'll learn all kinds of tips as we go through this podcast and more. But first thing is you got to have a great story. You got to have great marketing. You got to have a lot of value in your practice, right? Value doesn't mean, I give adequate amount of advice for a really cheap price. I don't mean that. I mean value as in, I understand this audience. I understand I'm great in this expertise. I'm just being highly relevant. The other one is having a target niche. So what you're great at should really be perfect for the audience that you want to work with, and they should be an obvious audience. Mm-hmm. And the other one, the fifth one, is for building your foundation, is a tight business model. So just make sure that you're like that. The model with the junior shouldn't be building their own practice, in my opinion. The junior should be helping you build your practice,
right? Because that
focus on your ideal,
right? Because that junior is going to rabbit at some point, because they have the only relationship with those clients, and they're going to build up a equitable practice and then bolt. I've seen that hundreds of times. Yeah,
I just think that you know what? There's a lot of people who deserve to have financial planning. So I'm not suggesting that everybody just needs to go with the most highly profitable. But go with the people that you understand the best and that you can create value and quickly get to the good outcomes that they value a lot. And it's tough to do that when you're working with one audience and your junior's working with a completely different audience. Totally. It's also very difficult to market, difficult to get more referrals, because you're never going to move up the referral quality ladder by taking 9 out of 10 who aren't qualified. Make sense? Absolutely. Now, we have a solution to this. And so why don't you tell everybody about the 270-day, that 3-quarter program that we've created. Just real quick about that, and then people can get on our website and find out more. Yeah, months ago we did a podcast that went viral, and it was called 270 Days to a Better Practice. And so what we did is went and created a program. So we're just putting the finishing touches on that. Definitely be ready in September of 2017. And the idea here is that we're going to coach advisors through building the foundation, making all these really good decisions over a 9-month period. That sounds 9 months. That's crazy. But we meet every 2 weeks. We've got a learning system where this is built into. We've got incredible exercise and resources. This is all the stuff that 3, very experienced marketing coaching people have put together and I believe you and Ray are going to.
We're going to be the ones doing it. Yeah.
Yeah. But if you want to, it's affordable, more affordable. I don't like to think that I'm expensive when I get involved, but very affordable, it's built on success, on achieving success, not just getting you in, throwing a bunch of stuff at you and, kicking you out the door and saying good luck with it. So anyway, that incredible program should be ready by September 2017. So stay tuned. We'll be launching that. We'll be talking about it more and more here on the podcast.
Okay. So that was demise number 2, which is too few referrals. Let's talk about demise number 3.
So non-ideal referrals is a big problem. So I think this may be the greatest threat to not getting referrals and killing your practice is the inability to focus and create value. I've talked about this, weave this into lots of podcasts that we do, and advisors who are really clear about why they are different, why they are better, and who should care, they can create more value than people who aren't doing that. So they understand their audience better. They understand the sales process and what's meaningful to them. They understand the things that are going on in their life, possible financial implications of how they live their life and who they are. There's so many things, and they can learn to speak to that audience and not have to worry about speaking to other audiences. It makes a massive difference. So if you lack relevancy, you're getting non-ideal referrals, it's going to kill your practice, mostly because of value and relevancy.
Perfect.
That's number 3.
All right, demise number 4, which is asking too much. Now, I want to touch on this very quickly before you jump in. I've had a lot of advisors over the years tell me, well, Matt, it seems very desperate for me to continue to ask for referrals. And if you're asking every single solitary time, and in fact, we've talked about this on other podcasts in the past, but I had an office that I worked with who would seriously sit there after the client was done. They would say, well, how did you think the meeting was? The client would usually say the meeting was great. Did we solve your problem? Yes, you did solve my problem. Okay, who are your 3 closest work associates? And they would stop and wait. And then if they got 3 names, they would say, would you mind signing this, and we will send it directly from our office to that person, and I want you to know we're going to follow up. So when you're asking so much and with so much oomph and gusto behind it, sometimes that can backfire, and it actually did start backfiring because the clients didn't feel that you were caring about them. Okay, the sale was done, and you're already moving on to somebody else. So what do you think about demise number 4? What has your experience been, Kirk?
I mean, that's a great analogy, a great story, not an analogy, but just that's exactly how I feel. And I felt for so many years. And I worked closely with one of the best referral guys in the country, probably about 6 or 7 years ago. And he was like one of the best referral guys. He was off the charts good. And he had a really well-defined scripted process. And every time I went through it, I felt super uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. We would do it together. I would try to do it with other people. And maybe in the short term you get some boosts, so you get some energy and you want to go for it. But I think the craziest thing to do is after you have a really good experience, like you have a moment with somebody, then all of a sudden you jump to all about you.
Yeah.
I think it's a very strange, it's a really bad way to stop a really good meeting, to end a really good meeting.
Yep.
So why do it? Why not find other ways? So, the truth is ask yourself this: do you think your clients actually enjoy this and appreciate it? And the answer is going to be no, pretty much across the board. Mm-hmm. There may be that odd, like super driven,
like a connector
type A who just loves doing this stuff. But at some point, if you slip up a bit, that's going to be a huge burden for them in their mind to carry on with you, right? Mm-hmm. So I think just try earning them and being top of mind for the right reasons is absolutely and utterly the best way to go here. But advisors struggle with that because they're not good at earning it like they can be. I mean, I shouldn't say that. I know so many advisors who are brilliant, but to create the value and and all those things, it becomes more difficult all the time to earn it, if that makes sense, because we seem like commodities. Even though none of us feel like that, a lot of us, it seems like that to consumers. Anyhow, the other one's being top of mind. That's really difficult for advisors to do. And a lot of times when advisors are top of mind, It's for their own reasons.
Right.
Here's my newsletter, instead of it's got to change.
Well, and the same thing with the weekly market commentaries, right? I fight that all the time. In fact, you and I were just working on a joint client together talking about the weekly communications needed to stop in the way that it was happening, which is actually how I want to go into demise number 5 here, which is not referable. So when you send a weekly market commentary, you have to think about what those words together mean. So weekly, which is far and away too frequent, especially if you're a financial planner, when you want people to look at the long-term time horizon. Second, market. And unless you are positioning yourself as the person who can eke out a specific better rate of return than anybody else, then you're really shooting yourself in the foot right there, because then people are paying attention daily or weekly to what's going on in the market when that really doesn't necessarily affect them on the long term. And then finally, commentary, which 99% of the time isn't your words. I have an advisor that I was working with down in the Atlanta area, and he was always talking about performance, having all of these very technical alpha, beta, gamma, super delta, whatever, commentaries. And then when he didn't do well from a performance standpoint, he lost millions of assets. And he, therefore, is not referable. Who are you going to refer to your guy or your person when they just lost you 12% when the market's up 18? What do you think about that one?
Yeah, advisors have to figure out what they want to be known for, and if what they're known for can carry them.
Right.
How valuable is it? Will being great at this particular part of what I do and what my ideal audience wants last? And is it different? And is it better? Am I better? So you got to be referable for sure. Mm-hmm. Some pundits are positioning that there's fewer advisors and fewer advisory firms that are going to start to control more and more. You can see it with some of these RIA firms. They're growing like crazy. They're creating a lot of waves, but there's fewer. There's more. I get more instances of brands that we create for advisors, and the advisor coming back and saying, "Hey, I got other guys in my area who want to join me because my brand is so tight and they're lost." Now, we've talked about that in past podcasts too, and how difficult it can be to for multiple advisors to be under one brand if they're not all buying into it. But if they come for the right reasons, that can be a different story. Anyhow,
we've got a podcast client, by the way, who I've been coaching for a long time. Up in New York, and because his brand is so strong, and because what he offers is so repeatable, that he's starting to get inbound calls from other financial services professionals who want to be able to attach themselves to his brand because it is so impactful and so well known within the community. And he's referable because he's got a great story. If you don't have that story, that foundation that Kirk was talking about, it's very, very difficult for people to refer to you, because either you don't provide something unique and different, or two, what you do provide, you're not able to communicate effectively to make it so that people will understand.
Absolutely.
All right. So those were the 5 demises. Once again, that was too many referrals, too few referrals, non-ideal client referrals, too much asking for referrals, and not referable enough. So this next part says, we're talking about why people refer. So let's unpack that for our audience, please.
I think it's really important for advisors to not just start thinking about how they can become better at referrals, but to think about why people refer. So if you understand that, I think it kind of tees up what you're going to do in the future and how you build that foundation. So the first reason that people refer is to be helpful. And there'll be more people that that'll want to be more helpful than others. Mm-hmm. Clearly, the people who want to be more helpful are going to be better for your business. Does that mean you go and ask them more often? No. Does it mean you maybe pay a little more attention to them? Probably. But that's the first reason.
Well, hold on. Now, is your reason number 1 to be helpful to the advisor, or to be helpful to their friends and family?
Both.
Good question. Okay, good. Okay. All right, what's reason number 2?
Reason 2 is they want to look good or look great in doing so. So if they're going to be helpful, it better make them look great.
Gotcha.
And this is actually the most important, because psychologist Fritz Heider created a theory called attribution theory. I studied that in university. My gosh, it was interesting for a week or two. I mean, it was very interesting, but for a whole semester, wow. Anyway, people's behaviors are based on their motivations. People refer and do things to feel good or to look good. And if you think about most of your clients, they want to look good when they refer, when they're being helpful. So here's the most important question. This is the most important part of this podcast. So make sure you're listening. Do you make people look good when they refer you? It's critical to getting more referrals. You need to know that you make people look good. So what's the first thing what happens when you refer somebody? They probably go to your website.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
They do a Google search.
Yep.
What's popping up about you? What's on your website? Are you different or better? Are you relevant?
Yeah. Yeah.
Have you seen the Gong Show on TV lately?
No, but I heard it came back.
It did. Anyway, I had to watch it the other day just to see if it was, what it was like. But anyway, I find teeing up people for a gong just seems kind of mean, but anyway.
Okay. I want to jump in here because you just talked about Fritz Heider, right? There's a modern day psychologist who has done a lot of work on this motivation too, and it's Dr. Robert Cialdini. He wrote a book called Influence, and it's all based on ethical influence and studies that he's done. One of the things that he talks about is social proof. So one of the other reasons why people refer is to have proof that they made the right decision. So if I buy a car and I start telling everybody about the car that I buy, and if they buy that car, it reaffirms the fact that I bought the right car. And it's the same thing with a financial services professional. If you have 2 or 3 people who will socially prove that you made the right decision, then that confidence in your decision also increases. And that's a very selfish motivation, but it is actually a motivation. And so Dr. Robert Cialdini's book, Influence, we'll make sure that gets in the notes. I refer to that book all the time, Kirk, because it's really probably the best sales book I've ever read in my life because it breaks it down from a psychological perspective. And then we also have our relationship with Syntonic, and they have an amazing way to really look at clients from a behavioral standpoint. So there's a lot of psychology involved with what Kirk's saying here, and I wanted to just slide that in because we have a lot of research backing this stuff up. It's not just that Kirk and I have been doing this for so long, but we're also students of the game. So I want you to tell the story of Mick. Now, we presented a little while ago at a conference, and you talked about Mick, and I think it's probably one of the best acronyms I've heard, and I want everybody to hear this story. So let's talk about Mick.
You know why you think that's the best acronym?
Why?
Because you created it. Because I had something else originally when I was writing that paper, and you straightened me out.
Really?
You don't even remember that?
I don't remember that. That's freaking awesome. Maybe that is why I like it so much.
Because I had called him Ted.
Oh, that's right. Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
It was the story of Ted, and we had a caricature design for him, and you said, no, that guy's name is Mick. I'm like, oh God. Okay, why should he be called Mick? And you're like, my client. I'm like, oh, facepalm. Anyhow. Funny story. You the man.
Right,
story of Mick. Mick is, I just gave it away, my ideal client.
Right.
So let's all do a little clap for Matt.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think I'm bowing right now.
Story of Mick. Here's the 3 things. So sorry, before I get into that. Mick is an ideal client of yours. You love Mick. Mick hasn't referred you in 3 years. And you don't know why, but you really love the relationship and respect the relationship you have with Mick. So you're being really careful. You're kind of dancing around it, but it's on your mind all the time. I'm going to tell you 3 reasons why Mick is not referring. Mick doesn't know who to refer. How many of your clients don't know who to refer you to? Right. Number 2, Mick doesn't know how to refer you. Should I say about you? Let me give you this example. I was thinking about this a couple minutes ago when we moved on, but I'll go back to it. If you were introduced, actually, let me finish 3 and I'll come back to the story because it applies to a bunch of things. So number 2 again was Mick doesn't know how to refer you. What did they say? What's the positioning? Third one is Mick doesn't know where to refer you to. So if you really want to be effective with an introduction, a referral, you would give somebody an action step, right? And most advisors' clients have no clue. Is it go to your website? Is it call him? Go visit him for a free, no obligation consultation?
Mm-hmm.
I'm laughing because we
fight that one all the time.
We laugh about that all the time. So here's the story. Imagine getting these 3 types of introductions. Hey, my advisor, he's so trusting, has a ton of integrity. You should give him a call, or you should go visit his website. That's the first one. Not great, but probably how 95% of introductions in this industry happen. Is that a fair statement?
Mm-hmm.
Second one. I just came back from a meeting with my advisor, and it blows me away with how focused he is on a process and how that process helps us move towards better outcomes. I always enjoy working with him because it always seems like my life is the center of every meeting. And what's funny is I just listened to his podcast last week where he talked about the same thing. You should go listen to this podcast because it was just about the experience I'm having in the practice. Okay, so that's option number 2. What are we going to do for number 3 here? I'm just going to leave it at 2 because I think it's pretty darn obvious.
Well, so I'll add a number 3 there. Actually, I'll do a 3 and a 4. So the first one is you come back from you ask the client about how they're feeling at the end of the meeting. And that client is feeling much better. And then when they go out and somebody says, how was your day? You're immediately going to bring up the fact that, gosh, I feel fantastic because I really feel like I'm on track. So there's number 3. And number 4 is one of my favorite things that very few advisors do to keep top of mind and to make Mick understand a little bit more about who to refer, which is when you target those ideal clients and you do client segmentation and you really figure out from a psychographic and demographic standpoint of who is your ideal client, you actually call them during lunchtime because especially if they're retired, the probability of them eating lunch with somebody just like them is very high. And all you do is you call up, hey, Mr. Johnson, hey, Kirk, how you doing? Hey, what, is everything all right? The client is wondering why the advisor's calling. Oh, no, hey, no, everything is just fine. I was just sitting in my office. I was thinking about our last meeting and how much I enjoy working with you. And I just wanted to call and say hi and see if you had any other questions. So, maybe Kirk, the client asks a couple of questions and then they hang up the phone. And if you answer the phone during a lunch when you're eating with somebody else, the first question that they're going to ask you is what, Kirk? Who was that, right? Why are you rudely right? Why are you rudely interrupting our lunch here? Well, it's because
another beer?
Yeah, my advisor just called me, and they're going to say, "Well, why did your advisor call you? Is everything fine?" And they say, "No, my advisor just was calling to check in." Perfect, right? So there's because that person's going to be thinking immediately, well, God, my advisor only calls to sell me something, or my advisor only calls when they want to have an appointment. And so that's another great way. Mick is probably eating lunch with another Mick, because if you like Mick so much, Mick probably hangs out with other people that they really like. So there are lots of different ways that you can increase Mick referring to you. And I think today we really uncovered some of that stuff. So any closing thoughts on this episode 34, Kirk?
We already know how important referrals are. You got to play the long game with referrals. We talked about earlier, building a foundation, talking about having a story, marketing value, target niche, and type business model so you can go get it. Mm-hmm. And then making sure that you fulfilled the 3 reasons that Mick doesn't refer, right? Knowing who to refer to, knowing how to refer, and then where to refer you. Fantastic. And then when you can do those things and they're different and they sound really good and they're not what you've experienced before, the likelihood of you getting more and better referrals is going to increase astronomically. Yeah. And it's not rocket science, but it is hard work. Mm-hmm. It's probably some investment. But man, if you invest in stuff that creates momentum in your practice that's sustainable and repeatable, that's way better than making decisions based on desperation. Yeah. I'm not getting enough, or I'm getting too many. And when you're those 5 demises, they really hold true. When you think about them, you got to stay away from them. You got to pursue this in a different way. New mindset. Today's the first day of your new mindset for referrals. Make it happen.
So with that, if you're struggling with this, please stay tuned because we're going to be offering something that will help you step by step to be able to do this. And then the other thing is, if you like listening to podcasts, you're not alone. Highly affluent, highly educated people listen to podcasts too. And Kirk brought that up with, hey, why don't you listen to my advisor's podcast? Or I was just listening to my advisor's podcast. And we told a story last time about a guy who brought up the fact that he has a podcast. And the guy came in and did business with him because he was so impressed that this guy had a podcast and a white paper. Really seriously consider how you're communicating your ultimate value out to the masses in your community. And we obviously believe, because Kirk and I love doing this, that podcasting is a great way to do it. And we have a solution for that too. So anyway, this was episode number 34, Death by Referrals Part 2. We're going to go over Part 3 next time. I hope you all...
Let me tell everybody what Part 3 is.
Oh, yeah. What is Part 3?
So Part 3 is how to inspire Mick. So how to inspire your ideal client to refer more. And the other thing we're going to talk about, which I've already started tapping into today, is building referral momentum. How do you do that? How do you inspire Mick to want to refer to you, and how do you build referral momentum? That'll be in Part 3.
Fantastic. All right. With that, Kirk, thanks for your brain again.
Thank you, Matt.
We'll talk to you guys on the other side of the mic sometime real soon.